Hi, everyone. It's Miss Beverly, piano teacher, and it's a snow day. Hope everybody is staying warm. Mostly people are working from home. Children are on that virtual learning platform. So it's still a work day for a lot of people, but I felt that I would just pop on to just share something that was on my mind recently. And here we go. So, listen, the number one complaint in my top five things that my parents complain about, right? And they're all good because I feel like when parents are able to be in a environment where they can express their needs or can express things that make them uncomfortable in the space that they're in, growth is possible. So that number one complaint in my top five things that parents complain about is my child does not. I'm sorry for the feedback. All right. So, my number one thing that my parents do complain about is my child does not want to practice, right? And the number two complaint is my child gets on the piano and does everything else except what they are assigned. If this is you, I understand your frustration, and I want to be here to help to normalize these complaints as we move towards success. And then the question is, well, why are we normalizing complaints? Because I promise you, since I've been teaching for about 13 years, more than 13 years, mostly every parent has come to me and say, Miss Burton, my young pianist does not want to practice, or if they're at the piano practicing, they're practicing something totally different from what they're assigned. And if we can find solutions, right, to these different complaints, I think that's where we are able to find success. So in every complaint for me as a piano teacher is something that I need to find a solution for. And I like to be very solution oriented because I feel like this is par for the course. Nothing in life is easy, right? Nothing in life is cut and dry. Everything requires different moving parts. And I'm here to find the solutions for those for you. Okay. So let me share a quick story with you. I had a student who was dragging themselves to lessons every single week. They'd log on and they would be unmotivated, like visually unmotivated and uninspired. And in despite my efforts to make the class session really fun, very active, nothing seemed to work. However, I believe it was maybe last week. Yep, last week or the week before last, my student came online and they did a fantastic job. Like they had a fantastic session. They were excited about playing their pieces. And I said to them, what made the difference? And I like to ask that because I feel like if I can figure out what made the difference, then I can apply that what, right? Every time in order to bring that same energy every single week. And the parent yelled out from the back and she said, she practiced this week. And it really dawned on me. I'm like, wow, it the motivation really didn't come from me. It came from the fact that the student had practiced that week and they knew what they were doing, right? And they were able to follow with the lesson a lot better because they can engage more and they weren't just sitting there listening. They were a participant and they weren't just taking in information because that can definitely be boring just sitting there. It reminds me of the commercial dry eyes, irritated eyes, like that chalkboard kind of vibe versus a more interacting kind of vibe. And I thought that was a really profound moment in my teaching career, and I've been doing this for a long time. But I want to suggest to you parents, right? Parents of piano students, parents of cello students or violin students or any kind of any kind of process that requires practice. I want to suggest that the lack of proficiency in an area, the lack of information, the lack of experience, it will cause our children to not want to practice. And I know that you're thinking, well, if it's the lack of proficiency and they need to practice in order to become, okay, so what is practicing? Practice is an action, right? So it's not a thought, it's an action of doing something repeatedly to acquire a skill or proficiency. So in order to get the proficiency, our students need to practice. Ugh, that's kind of messy because it's just like, which comes first? And if your child has developed a pattern of not practicing, right? They are probably making a lot of mistakes in their songs. They're probably leaving a lot of gaps in their songs, meaning that, they play the songs, but it's not rhythmically smooth. Like there is just like a lot of inconsistency within the song. And their teacher is probably a little bit frustrated, right? And that's going to lead to your own frustration and the child's frustration. And as a result, they might think that they're not good at it and that it's not good for them. So it's something that happens subconsciously in the child. Like if I don't sound good and this is not good and it feels uncomfortable and it feels like it's dragging and I'm not doing well, therefore I'm not good at it. And if as a parent I'm watching my child go through the process of not sounding good when they're trying to perform or their teacher being frustrated, it leads me to draw the conclusion and say, my child's not good at this. I'm going to give up on this. So parents, here it is. Um, the more your child becomes proficient, the more they will practice. The more they practice, the more they become proficient. So it's something that literally leans on each other. And but what if practicing is the issue, right? That's the question. Let's begin to change how we get our children to become proficient. We're not we're not taking out the practice. We're just changing what practice looks like. Think about your own self. We have things that we need to learn. We have things that we need to get done. How do we create a process for ourselves that keeps us motivating, right? Keeps us motivated without feeling overwhelmed and giving up. Because when it comes to our jobs, when it comes to creating as a teacher, creating classes and curriculum for my students, I don't have a choice, right? But how do I go through the process of practice, right? Doing something repetitiously in order to get good results and become better at it and become more proficient at it. So looking at that thing called practice is going to really be the deciding factor in how our kids progress and how proficient they become and how much they can enjoy the process. Okay? Practice does not bring happiness. When our children begin piano lessons, the promise is you're going to do this thing that allows you to play these enjoyable songs and have so much fun. But in order to get to the fun, that's usually the challenge for our students. So over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be sharing about the actual process of practice. One thing I believe in, my motto for Beverly Burton School of Music is building talent today to touch lives today and tomorrow. So the lives that our kids are going to touch are not only their own lives today, but when they become better and they're performing and sharing in any capacity that they do, or they actually learn the skill of practicing, they're going to be able to touch other lives. But it all started with building talent today. And that's what we want to do here at Beverly Burton School of Music. And I want to share this thought with you guys because no matter what music school you attend, you got to go home and practice with your children. So the first thing that we're going to start by doing, as I take the time to share over the next couple of weeks, of just practicing, you know, making it a different process. I want you to evaluate your child's practice experience. Let's start there. What is your child's experience? Tap in, tune into what your child is doing. Watch their body language, watch their facial expressions, watch the things that make them frustrated, watch the things that make them excited, watch the parts of practice that they don't enjoy, watch when they begin to enjoy certain parts of practice because of the fruit that it bears. Start to look at your child's practicing process and begin to like really think, how can I change this experience right here to impact their success? They might not go on to become pianists or piano teachers, but it is the process within the art. It is the skill that they develop in practicing that really teaches them a life skill. So they get the music, but they also get the life skill. So we want them to make sure that they get both. And we don't want to give up at a point where it's not about the music or their capability, but it's just about how they're going through the practice. All right, tune into my page. Follow me if you're not following me already. And over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be sharing stuff about practice. I don't want to practice. You know, how many times do we legit hear that? I don't want to practice. All right. So thank you guys for tuning in. Catch the replay. And I will see you guys sometime soon. Later.